Okay, take two. My
Thank
computer
you.
decided to crap out in the middle of that last one. So thank you everybody for joining us. We are here for our first Abundance Hacker interview with my dear personal friend and the lovely, the talented Miss Karma
Aw,
McCain.
thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm
Absolutely.
excited.
Awesome. So happy to be that you're here. So Karma is an accomplished actress. She is a social media maven. And above all of this, she is a leading activist online around body dysmorphia. So Karma, can you tell us a little bit about your body dysmorphia work?
Yes. So, body dysmorphic disorder is a mental illness that falls under OCD. And what it is it's a skewed perception of your body. And so, I think the easiest way, or the most not relatable, but I think the easiest way for people to understand is that most people with body dysmorphic disorder, also known as BDD, are either anorexic or bulimic, right? They always see themselves as fat. They just never see themselves as thin enough, which is why they end up doing what they do. For me, that wasn't my situation. For me personally, from the time I was a teenager, like roughly around 14, and developed breasts, I was just really veiny. I don't know if you can really see it right now. It depends on the light and everything. I'm sort of a chameleon. They sort of come and go. But I have super transparent, thin skin. Like my whole entire body, you can see my veins pretty much on my whole body. And that was my body dysmorphia. I was like, what's wrong with me? I'm a freak. Nobody else. I didn't see anybody else out there that looked like me. And you have to remember, like, this is like the mid 90s. The internet wasn't really a thing. Everything that I saw was magazines and TV and film, and I didn't see anybody that looked like me. And so I just thought like I was a freak. I really was like, I'm a freak of nature. Something is wrong with me. So I hid my body, I hid myself, and I kept it to myself. I didn't really tell anybody. A couple people, but mostly I just would not wear anything below my collarbone ever. Like, just this was never exposed. And I knew I had a desire as I got into my mid 20s. I knew I had a desire to overcome this thing and get over it. I just didn't know how I was going to do it. So I sort of was looking for healers or people to talk to about it. And then I came to the conclusion in I guess my mid 30s, where I just had this idea. I'm like, I'm not the only one who has body, a different body, or as I guess, didn't see myself as different. Like women that have mastectomies or scars or amputees or whatever. And I was like, none of these women are really being represented. So I was like, why don't I do a coffee table book of beautiful artistic nudes with all different women and shapes and sizes, um, and create diversity. And this was prior to the whole body diverse or body positive movement that we're seeing now. But I figured if I'm going to do this book of artistic nudes, then I myself need to be in it, and so why not shoot? So a good friend of mine who I hadn't spoken to in years happened to reach out, and he's a photographer, and he's like, yeah, I told him the idea, and he's like, yeah, let's shoot. So within like, I don't know, a week or two, we were shooting my first nudes, and it was scary as hell and also very liberating. What I found through shooting nudes is that it's very empowering. It gave me an opportunity to see myself outside of how I brainwashed myself to see myself as a freak. I was able to see myself in a new light and see my body objectively. And so it sort of broke down the resistance that I had around overcoming it. And then the next step for me was to start sharing on social media. So that was really huge. That was a really big step for me as far as, starting to publish these pictures and talk about body dysmorphia, because I'd not really talked about it before. So to just share it with the entire world all at once, just kind of, not only got rid of the fear that I had around my body, but it also created an avenue for other people, a platform for other people to learn about body dysmorphia, because nobody's really talking about it. So there are now body positive people out there, which is great. We're starting to see diversity now, and we're starting to see bodies represented. So this is all fabulous. I just feel like it's still not quite touched on. The body dysmorphia issue still isn't quite being tapped into, and it's a real problem for our culture and our country and the world, really, but especially here in the States. So I'm very passionate about spreading the word about it and talking about how do people recognizing that they have it, and then how do we overcome it? How do you what can you do for yourself to get over this issue? And for some people, it's, for everyone it's different.
So tell me a little bit about what you've done on social media. I know that you've been building quite a community. How did you get started with that, and how is that going?
So for me, I just started posting, like I said, I sort of started very conservatively posting pictures from my photo shoots and talking about my own personal journey with it and my own personal story. And from that, just the feedback that I've gotten from my followers is that a lot of people didn't know anything about body dysmorphia. They had no idea it existed. Or there are people who are like, oh, shit, I have that. I've had, this thing since I was a kid, and it's always bothered me, but I didn't know it was body dysmorphia. So it's just bringing awareness to people that wouldn't otherwise have it or know that they have it. So I would just say, just by speaking from my heart and speaking my truth and telling my own personal story and journey has resonated with people. And then, of course, some people are just followers just for sexy pictures. But, a lot of people are responsive and, and appreciative, and it's brought them awareness that they just didn't have. And I think that's the key, right? If you don't know about something, if it's not even in your eyesight, you wouldn't know about it. So it's bringing body dysmorphia, the term body dysmorphic disorder, BDD, it's giving it a name, it's giving it recognition so that it can start to be addressed, hopefully.
Gotcha. How has it been? What's your experience been in building a community online? How does that feel? What kind of challenges have you run into, or what's been also really great about that for you?
Yeah, so there is obviously an issue with censorship. There is a big stigma in our society, in our culture, around nudity, and that nudity automatically equates to pornography or selling sex, or just this stigma around if you're showing yourself, you're sort of less than. So it's been tricky because there are algorithms, as you know, on Facebook and Instagram, and as soon as a post is deemed not fit for community guidelines, you sort of get put into jail, Facebook jail or Instagram jail. They sort of hide you from everybody. So there has been a little bit of navigating how to still share without getting put in jail.
Got it.
But also still show like a real body, a real 43-year-old female body. Like, stuff starts to change, stuff starts to happen. And the more that other women, I feel like the more that other women see relatable women that have quote unquote flaws or whatever, even though they're not, it's truly normal. All of our bodies are normal, but we've been trained to see a body airbrushed and photoshopped and perfect. That's what we've been trained. And so by me posting pictures of my breasts or my whole body is not about selling sex. It's not about anything other than just showing like, this is what a real body looks like that's not photoshopped and hasn't been retouched.
Gotcha.
And there's nothing wrong with it. So, yeah,
so
there's been some challenges.
Gotcha. Tell me this. So I know that, sometimes, if you're taking pictures in a camera and just sending them out, that's one thing. But you have a community, right, that is actually almost immediately responding to what it is that you put out there. And you're an actress as well, right? You've done many shoots where you just go into the camera and you're not really talking directly to the audience, but you are talking directly to the audience on your social media communities, right? So what is that experience like? What are the benefits of being able to communicate directly with your audience? and maybe some of the challenges that come up with that you don't get when you are just doing a shoot behind a camera and you don't immediately talk to them afterward.
Yeah, for sure. I get a lot of wonderful feedback from my followers. They're very interactive and very supportive. Most of them, I mean, I've had a few bad seeds, but luckily I've been very fortunate and having really wonderful, loyal followers who really interact and respond to what I'm putting out there. And I feel like it's because I'm really truly coming from my heart. This is my truth. And nobody can change that or take that away. So even if I've had friends who are like, you know what, I just don't support what you're doing. Like, I don't support nudity. And I'm like, you know what, that's okay. Because this is my truth and because I'm doing it to bring awareness to something that's personal to me, that I struggled with for so long, it doesn't really matter what anybody else thinks. So I feel like maybe that's also why it resonates with my followers, is because it really is just my truth, and I'm not profiting from it. I'm not, I'm not profiting from it in the sense of I'm not selling my body, if that makes sense. Like, and that's okay. I support women who do that. Like, I'm fully supportive of that. I'm just saying, like, my truth is really a gift to share with people and to bring awareness. And so the following has been very helpful. There's been times when I was going to quit. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do this anymore. And every time I thought that, there would be a message in my inbox from someone who was like, thank you so much for sharing your story because it changed me and for XYZ. Like, every single time I thought about quitting, there would be some amazing, beautiful message in my inbox about how my story and sharing it helped them. So
that's so beautiful.
Yeah, it's really been awesome.
What do you do to deal with it when you do get somebody, even if it is like a close friend or someone who's close to you, who comes to you and tells you that they don't like what you're doing, that they don't like you speaking your truth? What do you do to move past that?
Well, it's kind of similar to what I was saying, is that, like I said, it's my truth, and I have, I'm a mom. I have a son. My son's 19 now. So, but I get, like, I have friends that have girls, teenage girls, and they're like, okay, so my daughters can't look at what you're sharing. And that's a problem for them as a parent. They're like, I want my daughters to learn about body dysmorphia, but they can't see your pictures. And I'm like, well, why not? The question isn't about me. It's about parents out there and teaching their own children the difference between just a human body and sex. And obviously there's different ages and every parent's different. They're going to do what's right for them, but it's about taking the stigma of nudity. It basically, nude does not equal porn. Nude does not equal sex. Just nudity is just nudity. It's just a human body. We all have a human body. And underneath our clothes, we're all nude. So
what? What?
Right? For me, I'm just like, if we just take the stigma and take the sexuality of it and just see it for a human body, then as a parent, it's up to the parents how they want to teach their own children. So really, in my mind, if it was presented, if a friend wanted to present to their kids, like, body dysmorphia, I would say explain to the kids, like, there's nothing wrong with nudity. Obviously, there's also, this whole thing around, of course, underage people and nudity. And I get that. And I'm not saying that young people should go around nude. That's not what I'm saying at all, because I've had people reach out to me and say, there's a problem with pedophilia in this country and everywhere. And I'm like, of course. But nudity doesn't promote that. Just like, if you look at nudists, their whole thing is just about it's just about normalizing the human body. That's all it comes down to, and taking the sex out of it.
Gotcha.
So I tell, that's kind of my outlook on it. It's like, it's up to you parents out there, how you want to teach your kids about nudity and take the shame out of it. Because one of the things around body dysmorphia is that we're shamed. Our bodies are constantly shamed and taught to be shameful, because if we're nude, we must want sex. But that's not
so much the case.
What's that?
I said not so much the case, right?
Yeah. So that goes deep. I mean, the nudity and in our culture goes deep. It goes back to religion and control, and so yeah.
It's really powerful what you were saying, about really holding to your truth, and how a lot of people don't necessarily agree with what it is that you're doing, but how it sounds like your community is really centered a lot around you just being authentically you, and that has really netted some great results for you.
Absolutely. I've had people reach out to me that I wouldn't have otherwise met, photographers and other collaborators, and people who have messaged me to work together and collaborate as a result. And there's definitely friendships and people that are in my life now that would not otherwise be here. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, let's switch gears for just a little bit. So you were just recently traveling. You were in India doing a project out in India just a few weeks ago. Tell us about that.
That was a wonderful experience. So I was cast in a feature film. It's a true story. It's about the largest IT scam in history, and it was these group of Indians were it was a brother and sister, really a brother and sister. They're from India and they live in India. They were scamming up my Americans. They were calling saying they were the IRS. So it's a true story, and I play a Federal Trade Commission agent, and I had a blast. It was really one of the best experiences in my life. I'd never been to India. And it all happened very quickly, too, from the audition to the casting to flying out. Like, everything was so fast. So I didn't really have too much time to think about it. It was just like, okay, get ready, go. And it was really wonderful. It was really wonderful. I'm very, very grateful for that experience.
Awesome.
And to see India and be exposed to this culture that is just like so completely different from the States. I can't wait to actually go back and see more of the country. I just loved it.
Well, it's speaking of that, I mean, no one's going anywhere anytime soon. While you were there, is when the coronavirus, the COVID-19 pandemic, really sort of caught fire, at least here in the United States. What was that experience like, being overseas, not just overseas, but also in India?
Yeah.
And what was that like when you were there and even trying to get back home?
Yeah, so when I left, it was just sort of the whole COVID thing was sort of in the media, but it wasn't really, as obviously what it is now, clearly. Like, I left the United States and came back to a completely different United States. Like, it's really weird, actually. So while I was over there, I was so busy working every day on set filming, and the story was sort of developing and growing, and I was there for a week. And so really from the Saturday that I got there till the Saturday I left, I was getting messages like, are you going to be able to come home? People were texting me from the States like, are you going to be allowed back? Can you come home? Are you going to make it? And I was like,
right.
God, you guys, this isn't that big of a deal. Like, in India, it was still just, life was just felt so sort of just calm and normal still. So to hear like the hoarding had started and the toilet paper thing, and I was like, what the heck is going on? Like, are you guys for real?
The toilet paper struggle is real.
Yeah. And I was thinking, shit, do I have toilet paper? Like, I didn't buy it. I was like, God, I didn't think I was coming home to like the apocalypse. Like, I didn't buy any. I didn't go to the grocery store. There's no food in my fridge. So I was like, shit, am I even going to be able to get food when I get home? So coming home, so definitely from the time I flew into India to the time I came back, like just even the way everything was being handled at the airports was, although I will say when I flew into India, they did scan me. They were scanning everybody for their temperature as they got off the plane, which is funny because when I got back here into the States a week later, they didn't do that. So I was like, well, that's kind of interesting. Anyways, yeah, it was crazy.
But you made it back home okay, obviously.
I did. I made it back, and then I was told, I had to self quarantine for 14 days because I had traveled internationally, even though I was in a low exposed country. Like I still was supposed to self quarantine for 14 days. And then I guess it was really like 2 days after I got back that they did the stay at home, the mandated stay at home thing. So, yeah, it's all been really strange.
Mm.
It's really strange to come home to.
Gotcha. Well, so part of what you came home to, I mean, we now know that you're being an actress. A lot of the production business is shut down right now. So many productions
All
are
of it.
done, like all of it, right? What is that like? What is that like for you right now? Like, what is your job kind of like at the moment?
My job at the moment is non-existent. I actually do have one audition, self-tape audition that I am supposed to do in the next few days. So I do have one self-tape audition that's due in a few days. But for the most part, everything, there are still people casting, not that many, and it's, the shoot dates I think are at the moment set for May 1st, assuming everything goes back to normal. But from what I've heard, it's going to be like June, maybe July before realistically everything's back up and running. So it's definitely time to start thinking outside the box. I know there are people who are shooting stuff. They're creating content, and all the actors are shooting from their homes. And so stuff's starting to change. Like people are already being innovative and starting to think outside the box of like, okay, now how do we adapt? What do we do in this new world that we're living in? And so it's interesting to see even casting directors. There are some casting directors that are doing like a monologue contest where you tape a monologue and you submit it to them, and they'll pick their favorites and then put it on their page. And this is a way to get seen by casting directors that a lot of us normally wouldn't be seen by. So there actually is still opportunity happening. It's just happening in a very different way. And so monetarily, I mean, I don't know what that means monetarily. I would say for actors, most actors that aren't getting residuals from commercials, pretty much the only actors making money, I'd say right now, are the ones who have commercials airing
Gotcha.
on TV, because they're going to get a residual check for every time it airs. So those actors are fortunate.
So
because,
Yeah, right, right.
Yeah.
More than most people are. So,
or I guess if actors on TV shows, that have, that are in syndication, they're always getting checks. Like those people are always getting checks. But for most of us, everything's completely on hold and stopped at the moment. So it's crazy. It's time to think of time to create new content.
Yeah. Well, so how are you approaching this? What is your mindset as you go into this new normal for your career and what's ahead?
Yeah, for sure. So again, thinking of content, thinking of things to create that are different, that are in need right now. Thinking outside the box. I think really for me, I feel like historically, whenever there's something big like this, when societies are forced into change, a lot of new ideas, a lot of new things, a lot of inventions, this is when stuff is created and grown. So for me personally, I'm really just staying open